This is Calabucas from Think Future. What is your propensity for risk? Are you somebody who loves taking risks? Are you somebody who's out there in the pandemic not wearing a mask? But I digress. Do you love taking risks? What is your propensity for risk? Right? Because innovation is risk. Because if you ask me, I don't think you can innovate without risk. I mean, I was in a meeting once and we were in the innovation group and we were talking about all these great ideas. And then somebody chimed in, I think one of the senior leadership, and said, well, this is great, but we have to de-risk innovation. And I'm like, de-risk innovation? How do you de-risk innovation? You can't de-risk innovation. Innovation is risk. Life is risk. Change is risk. Life is change. But I digress again. The reality is that if you want to innovate, if you want to create new products and services, you need to be risky. You need to understand how to deal with risk. Now let me ask you something. I used to do this exercise a while back whenever I went to a restaurant. So server comes up to you and most people would say, what is the most, especially if it's a restaurant that you've never been to before. Let's say it's a restaurant you've never been to before. So what would you say? You would probably say, what's the most popular thing on the menu? And you would say, what's the most popular thing on the menu? Because you want to know what everybody else ordered, because everybody else can't be wrong, right? Well, let's crowdsource the recommendation and ask the server, what do people normally get, right? And that's what most people do, right? Because if they don't know, unless they have a friend who recommends something or Yelp recommends something, they usually ask the server, what do most people get? So I decided on this as an experiment. So instead of asking what's the most popular thing on the menu, I asked what's the least popular thing on the menu. And 9 times out of 10, it throws the server back. They're like, what? Nobody's ever asked me that question before. Why would I know the least popular thing on the menu? But eventually, after a little bit of thinking, they can indicate the thing on the menu that was ordered the least. And I gotta tell you, 9 times out of 10, when I do order the least popular thing on the menu, it's amazing. It's amazing. Now, sometimes it's not so good. I think I was at a restaurant once where they brought me like a meat salad, which the greens were all wilted and it wasn't that good. But 9 times out of 10, the meal was amazing and not something I'd ever wanted to try, but it was really good. So I ask you, would you ever do that? Would you ever risk paying for a meal that wasn't really good? Would you ever go to the server and say, bring me your least popular meal? Now, you got to ask yourself, if you won't even do that, if you won't even risk the price of a meal, how can you possibly risk building a disruptive product for your organization? Do you have the propensity to take that risk? You got to understand, life is risk. Everything is risk. What's your propensity to take that risk? Can you take the risk? Can you survive the risk? And if so, are you willing to take it? If you're not willing to take the risk, if you don't want to risk anything, should you even be in innovation? Don't you feel that innovation requires risk? And if innovation requires risk and you have no propensity for risk, maybe you shouldn't be in innovation. Maybe you should be somewhere else. I don't know. But think about it. What is your propensity for risk? Because if you ask me, to innovate, you have to be able to take risks.